Welcome here this morning. It's good to have you. Good to see some old faces and new faces, just with, I think, the youth coming here this morning. So, not that you're looking old, I didn't mean that. Just used to see you around more. So, this morning we're going to do we're going to break up later into kind of our time of sharing and prayer and stuff like that. And I actually got a few things mixed up. I thought I was doing this next weekend, and I looked at my calendar yesterday. I'm like, oh, that's this Sunday. And so Brock and Kristen have been out this weekend visiting with us. And so I thought maybe this morning what I would do is I'm going to have Kristen come join us. So this is Kristen Hunter, Brock's wife. Brock will be here later. He had something he had to do this morning, but Kristen's got kind of an interesting story, and I thought maybe I would just have her share some of her story. I'll just kind of interview her a little bit, and then maybe to kind of use that to kick us off into our time of sharing together and praying and whatnot. So let me just open with a word of prayer, and then we'll get going here. Father, this morning we want to come before you, and we're just asking, Holy Spirit, for you to come and stir amongst us. We're asking that you would just open our hearts to what the things that you want to do. Just ask that you would come and just share the things that you want here this morning, whether it be from Kristen or myself or each other as we share together later and pray together. Lord, I just ask that, Holy Spirit, you would just reveal your heart, that we would understand the things that you're doing and how you're stirring and moving. And just ask for this. And I pray these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. So my relationship with the Hunters started, I don't even remember how many years ago. I think it was 3 years ago, maybe 4. I think it was 3. How long have you guys been married? 3? Going on 3. So it's just over 3 years ago. Actually, Sam, at the door there, who greeted you today with one hand, Sam and I brought him with me. We went and did a couple installs with some customers. And we were installing some equipment on trailers and whatnot. And so I think you and Brock were dating at the time that we met. So Sam, I'm just telling your story here a little bit, by the way. Anyway, we'd spent a day or two with Brock and then Kristen. And so that's where we got to know Kristen a little bit. And then from there, it kind of, I guess we've been hanging out a fair bit ever since. So anyway, so I don't have a long history, but we have some history here with Brock and Kristen. And just getting to know them over the years, like one thing I love about the Hunters and Kristen, she's an in-law, but she's no different, is they're willing to dream and to pursue the things the Lord puts on their heart, even though it's bigger sometimes than what is them, and just to seek the Lord in that way. And so I thought we'd maybe share a little bit about that this morning. So, Kristen, maybe if you want to just, share a little bit where you're from, just your background. I know you ended up in LA for quite a while, and maybe just, how you got there and what happened in your heart to get there.
Trades. Hi, my name is Kristen Hunter, and I grew up in southwestern Saskatchewan, about an hour west of Shaunavon, where I currently live in a town of about 100 people. I grew up in a Christian home and had a really stable and solid upbringing, and was really thankful for that, I guess, but unaware of, the importance and the level of protection that had been and what that meant in the moments of growing up. And I graduated high school and was a little kind of unsure what I wanted to do beyond high school and as far as a career and life and that kind of thing. So I did a year of Bible school at Briarcrest in Caronport, Saskatchewan, and after that I really felt the Lord putting on my heart to go to Los Angeles, California. I'd always wanted to live in California. That had been, a girl's dream of living in the big city. But I didn't know why I was going there. I didn't know what the purpose was. And but just on a bit of a whim and I guess a leap of faith, I applied for an internship at a place called the LA Dream Center. And I got accepted, and I moved a month later. So the beginning of 2012, I moved down from Gonzales, Saskatchewan to Los Angeles, California, so 100 people to 11 million. And I was placed as staff in their Teen Girls Discipleship Program. So the Dream Center is a big inner city ministry in downtown LA, like right downtown, and they do a number of different ministries out of this big building. They have a homeless outreach, and they have a men's discipleship similar to like Teen Challenge, and a women's discipleship. They rescue women out of human trafficking, and they send food to poverty areas in the city. But I was placed in their teen discipleship program. Up until this point, I had never worked with youth, and I didn't really know what that would look like or that would mean, but, I mean, you're along for the ride. So I had signed a contract that I'd be there for a year, and in the first, 2 weeks, I was so in over my head I wanted to go home. I was working with teenage girls that in their 14 years had seen more pain and heartbreak and trauma. It still makes me emotional. I'm so sorry. I didn't think I was going to cry this morning. This is dumb. That I would ever experience in my lifetime. And I was really confused. I was like, God, I don't know why you brought me here. I don't know what I'm doing. I have nothing to offer to these girls because I can't relate to them. Their story is not my story, and I don't know how these pieces fit together. And so I didn't want to stay. I really struggled to find my place. And there was one day in particular, actually, that a girl, she came home from school. She was really upset after her day at school. And she was freaking out, and she was throwing things and really upset. And I felt so lost as to what to say and how to comfort her and how to help her, because I don't know what you're feeling. I don't know what you're going through. And so I'm standing and talking to her, and I'm going, I'm really sorry you had a bad day. Things will be better tomorrow. Do you want to pray about it and talk about it? And she looked me in the eyes, and she went, Miss Kristen, all due respect, but you have no idea what it feels like to be me. You don't know where I've been. And so if you don't mind, just leave me alone. Don't talk to me because you can't offer me anything that's going to help. And it shattered me because it spoke to the very insecurity that I had. And so I went home to my room after that. And I was bawling my eyeballs out, as I am now. And I was just like, see, God, I can't offer anything to this. And in that moment, if I've ever felt like the Holy Spirit has talked to me, it was in this moment. And this really quiet, still voice said, Kristen, the upbringing that you have had is exactly why I've brought you here. Because I need you to tell these girls that what they've known is not what is normal. And it's not what I have for them. And it's not how things have to be moving forward. And that resonated with me because suddenly my safe, secure home and stability in my upbringing and my life had purpose and had relevance. Because it was the first time that I realized that that's really not the normal. In my small town, that was kind of how everybody's life was. But in a city of 11 million people, there was very, very few people who came from homes that were still intact, or parents who wanted them, or lives that didn't have some level of trauma or upset. And so I went back the next day. This is a really long-winded story, I'm sorry. I'll get to the point. I went back to that girl the next day, and I walked up to her and I held her face in my hands and I just said, you don't have to like me, you don't have to listen to me, you don't have to agree with anything, but I just want you to know one thing, is that what you've known is not how life has to be. This is not what's normal. And the upbringing that I have had might not relate to your story, but it's how your life can be moving forward, if you would like that. And as I spoke to her, she broke down crying. And this girl sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And she just went, you're the first person I have met in my life whose story is not like mine. Her mom had come from this, and her grandma had come from this, and they'd all had kids at 16 and 17. And then it just was this cycle that kept perpetuating itself. And she said, you're the first person I've ever met who doesn't come from that. And I did not know that life could be different. And so that switched things for me, and I suddenly felt like I had something to offer, and I had a purpose and a point, and that really propelled me forward to invest in a way that I didn't know that I could before in my time in Los Angeles. And I loved it. It was hard. It was challenging. It was probably one of the most difficult years of my life as far as spending time with these young girls. And I wanted to stay. I would have loved to have just stayed in Los Angeles and continued doing what I was doing, but my visa expired and the U.S. government sent me home, so I came back to Canada. But that was okay, because closer to the end of my time there, I was really praying and asking the Lord, like, what's next? Like, I want to keep doing something like this. I want to work in a program like this. I want to be a part of this type of thing. And so in going home, that was my plan. I was going to come back to Canada, and I was going to find a program for teenage girls, a faith-based program, and that's where I was going to go work. It didn't matter if it was on the West Coast or the East Coast. This is just what I wanted to do. And so I came home and started trying to find places to be involved and do this continue this type of work, and I couldn't find one. I researched, and I called a bunch of programs. There's a few private programs and some kind of government secular programs, but there was nothing that fit the niche of a year-long faith-based program for teenage girls. And I sat with my pastor when I got home and was like, I really feel like this needs to exist, and I wanted to do this, but I can't find it. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to get involved, and I can't find anyone that exists in Canada. There's a lot of programs in the States, but there isn't one in Canada. And he said, well, if there isn't one, then we'll start one. And I went, well, that feels a little bit more than what I was looking for. That's just a little more daunting, but it really challenged me, and so I said, okay, well, let's think about this, let's pray about this a little bit, and so I did, and he took time, and I took some time, and then we came back together, and I went, yeah, this needs to exist. There needs to be a place for young girls to go where they can find safety and they can feel the love of Jesus and the security of a home-like environment. And so in 2013, we began the founding process of forming what is now known as Living Hope Ranch. And fast forward to now, 10 years later, I'm still in the development stages, but that's what I've spent the bulk of the last 10 years of my life doing is starting a program for teenage girls, which it's very similar in style to like Teen Challenge, but just for actual teenagers.
So maybe just to fill in a little bit there, like maybe talk about just pre-COVID where you guys are at, and then maybe fast forward then to today with where your organization's at.
Clear my. Sorry, I'm on the tail end of a cold. I'm really sorry. Come on, all like this. So we founded the program and started building a program and tailoring my experiences after that, and a number of different things. And we opened our doors for our first trial run in January of 2016. And it was only ever supposed to be a trial run. So we operated for about 5 months, and we had 3 girls come through our doors in that time, just to test out our program, work out a few kinks, and see how this is going to work, what we needed to fix, amend what we didn't know, and learn from the things that we thought we did that we actually didn't. And so that was a really good learning time for us. After that trial run, we closed down and then worked to revamp our program and fill in the gaps that we had learned, and then raise more funds to get open, because we realized you need a lot more money than we had anticipated and this kind of stuff. So then we took another 4 years actually to raise the money and reestablish our program, and set our course to open in January of 2020, which is what we did. And then COVID hit. And everybody knows how that went down and the restrictions, so we unfortunately had to send all of our clients home. We had another two girls with us at that point. We had to send them home. We had to lay off all of our staff, including myself. I was a full-time staff member at the ranch, and that was devastating. that really, really sucked the wind out of my sails personally, but also as an organization, working for that long and raising all the money and putting all the things in place, and to have absolutely no say or no control over what that looks like. Being a nonprofit, it really shifted things. It was more than just sending our staff home. Like, we lost 3/4 of our donor base in the first 3 weeks of COVID. And so it's, one part of it is sending your people home. The other part of it is then having to recoup that donor base. And as you guys know, as COVID went on, you couldn't travel, we couldn't go present, we couldn't go fundraise, like, you couldn't have any of these things. So we just kind of had to sit and wait. And as a board, we were really discouraged. I mean, we've been working at this for 8 years at that point. We were really discouraged, like, Lord, why is this so hard? I mean, knowing that, I know it was going to be hard, but it had been, just felt like thing after thing after thing. And we were discouraged, and we really stepped back after we shut our doors, and we sat as a board and we went, we need to talk about what this looks like moving forward. Do we try this again? Because we'd felt like we had tried twice now, and it just hadn't worked. Do we try to find an organization to partner with, or do we just say it was a good attempt and just kind of close our doors, and that'll be that? So as a board, we took time and we sat and we prayed individually, and then came back together, and we felt so strongly like we just, as a board, but as individuals, we can't walk away from what we felt like the Lord had put on our heart to help the young women of Canada. And so we said we could try to find an organization to partner with, or we can just set our course and our path and try it again. And so that's what we've been doing, and we've been revamping our program again and trying to find the staff to put in place to once again open our doors. We haven't opened our doors yet since COVID had closed us. There was just a number of things that needed to be altered, I guess. But the Lord has been really faithful in walking this path with us, and just reassuring us that this, like, stay the course. And it's hard and it's uncomfortable and it's taking a really long time. But, you know, I'm reminded of all in the Old Testament people in the Bible that the Lord gave them dreams and gave them visions and gave them purpose that they didn't see come to fruition, but they walked the course before. And so, you talk now.
Okay, I'll give you a quick minute. So I guess maybe not give you a very long minute, one of the questions I would have, and I think there's a lot of people here who would have had different dreams or wanted to pursue different things, and somehow or another you feel like your dreams got crushed. What advice or what thoughts, what have you learned so far? And I know you guys aren't fully reopened yet, you're getting very close, but what do you say to that? I mean, you spoke to it a little bit, but just, I don't know, can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Like, just when everything seems to come against you, and yet you feel like, no, this is where it was supposed to be. How do you keep going? Aside from marrying into a very persistent family.
Yeah.
We'll work hard and make things happen.
Yeah. I was told one time that, I mean, the Lord doesn't give us dreams for ourselves. You know, He laid this in my heart, but it wasn't for this wasn't for me. This wasn't for my own platform or my own accolade, or, you know, let's start a program so that people can clap for Kristen. This was for girls who have nowhere to go. This is for girls who don't know the safety that I felt growing up. And I guess what keeps me going in moments is, it's been the stories of the girls that we did have, even though they were only there for a short time. We saw such significant change in them. I mean, I got to live for a year with girls in Los Angeles and have some wild stories. But even the girls that we had for a time in our For example, in our first go around, our trial run, we had our very first client. She was probably the epitome of like the maximum of what we could probably ever handle in our program. And her mission was to poke holes. And she did. She found every gap that we had in our program. But before she came to live with us, she was living off of the government. She was on the welfare system. She was in and out of psych wards. She was all of these things dependent on structures that existed in and out of foster care, all these different things, and didn't have a stable course. She'd never worked a job. She'd never finished school. She didn't have anything she was excited about. And she was with us for about 5 months. And it was a short time, but beyond her time with us, she went out and she got a job, and she continued working with the horses. Part of our program is we have an equine program at the ranch, and the girls can work with horses, and she found that she really loved that, and she loved connecting with the animals, and that was important to her. And so then she left, and she got a job, and then she kept working with horses, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't dependent on other people to look after her. She was able to get her own place and take care of herself, and regardless of what decision she makes in life, we looked at that as a win. You know, that was a success, because how she was when she came in was different than when she went out, and at the very least, she had experienced for a short time what her life could look like, and then she kind of put that into practice. And so it's the stories of hope that we've seen in the girls that have come through our program, even though it's been short, that's helped me go, this matters, and remind me that it matters and that it's important, and that the Lord didn't place this within me for me. It's for other people, and I want to give what I can, however I can, as long as I can, because that's what He's asked. And
No, and I think I really appreciate some of the things you're sharing too. I think when God puts burdens on your heart and dreams, you know, as crazy as they may seem, if they're from Him, He'll walk with you. You know, He'll always give you the resources, fund it one way or the other, whether, I mean, we're not just talking money here, but emotionally, whatever you need in a case like that, you know, He will fund whatever dreams He puts on your heart. And even though it's hard, you think of people like Abraham, you know, like God gave him a dream, and did he see it or realize it? Not even close. You know what I mean? But yet he was faithful all those years, you know, for decades. And because he trusted the Lord would do what He needed to do in the time that He was going to do it. And so I think that's one of the things I just really appreciate, especially, you know, getting to know Kristen a little bit. And one thing I can speak to too is, I don't know if it was last year, I think Jenna was gone one week, and the kids and I went to Winnipeg, and we went to one of the concerts you guys had in Winnipeg. And one of your first, I don't know if it was this girl or one of the girls that you had was there at that night, and we met her. And I remember just how excited she was to see you and to connect again. And you could just see in the eyes a cloudiness, but yet a clarity, you know, in a different way. And just in that quick interaction that we had with her, it was really neat. So yeah, we're excited that you guys can get going again. And I think maybe just in just a minute or two, if you could just share where you guys are at right today. Like what are the hurdles? What are you guys working on? When's your hopefully go live date again?
Yeah. We are working really hard to fundraise. We are at a place where we were trying really hard to find someone who could be our fund developer or fundraising director. We need someone full-time in that position to be able to set course for putting on events and having fundraisers and just giving all of their time to that, to raise the money that we need to operate. We have set a goal. Feels like a daunting task, I guess, at times, but we've set a goal of wanting to raise $1 million before we open again. We've set that because in our experiences and trials, we've learned that like this takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of energy, but you do have to have those finances in order to keep moving forward. That goal of $1 million far exceeds what we need for our yearly operating budget, but we want to be able to open and stay open, and so that's the course that we've set is to raise that money. Along the way, we're trying to hire the staff, and as soon as we have those things in place, we will open our doors. We have a waiting list longer than we could ever accommodate. The phone, even though it's been been over 4 years since we've closed our doors, the phone's never stopped ringing. The emails have never stopped coming in. Parents asking. Finding clients is the easiest part of running this program, unfortunately. But yeah, so we're working to hire the key positions that we need, raise the money, and then get our doors open. And as soon as those pieces come together, we'll open our doors. We could give you a set date. We have like optimistic dreams, but the reality is we have really learned and felt like the Lord has said to us, like, my time, not yours. So us setting dates feels like it's taking a little bit too much of it into our own hands and our control, and we don't want to be carrying that we just want to trust the Lord to bring the pieces that we need when we're ready for them. And we've found him to be really faithful in that process, is going now this, but not before, these things. And his timing has really seen us through a lot of years, and a decade of planning and trying. And so as soon as we get those things, then we will open, and we're about 25% towards our goal. The Lord's been really faithful and brought some incredible donations and donors and partners along the way with us in the last number of months, and so we're really encouraged. But we keep plugging along.
So I just think they have a facility already that someone to let them use. It's maybe not quite ideal in some ways, and so I think they're kind of open hands, keeping our eye on some other stuff, but so I think as soon as some things come together and getting the right staff and people, then they're ready to go. Okay, I would like to switch gears and turn it back over to you guys. So we'd like to spend some time praying this morning, and kind of what my thought is how many of you guys have seen the Sound of Freedom movie? Not enough, I'll say that. I'm not sure if it's in the church library or not. I actually have a couple copies if you want it. It is an incredible story. It's a hard story. It won't be an easy watch, but it's a story of I know Jeff has talked about it once before, but I think it was a DEA agent. This is a true story, who worked with drug trafficking. And basically the Lord spoke to him about, because he realized drugs were a big deal, but the trafficking of people was way bigger. And it's quite a wild story of him going into Colombia and rescuing some kids. And this is all true story. This happened actually not that long ago. And this movie was shot, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. Every major, like Disney, every major outfit blocked it. They did not want this story coming out. And so it ended up being Angel Studios, I think, out of Utah. They funded it, and theaters wouldn't play it. A few did, and but it's an incredible story, and it really speaks to a lot of things. And so just about trafficking, what these girls go through, what these kids go through, not just girls. And so I thought this morning, why don't we just we got 15 minutes here, if you guys could break into groups of 6, no more than 10, and let's just pray for these girls, these kids who are stuck in the trafficking. Let's pray for Living Hope that the Lord would continue to guide them and bring the right things in his time together. And let's just take some time praying for that. It is such a big deal. There's so much that goes on. I mean, if you don't think it's around here, we had a situation 2 weeks ago with a big arrest locally in the Red River Valley of this exact thing. Last year, there was a ring in Morden that was broke up. This is happening here, and it's now, and it's hard. I think for us to just stick our heads in the sand maybe isn't exactly the right thing to do. So let's just take some time and just pray for these kids who are being trafficked, and just for organizations like this. I mean, there's others too, but just that the Lord would rescue his people and do that. So let's take the next 15 minutes and just pray for this and speak into this a bit. And thanks, Kristen, for sharing this morning. It's great to have you. And